Hello and welcome to the Nintendo Switch Online Game Club, the show where we play through the games available on Nintendo's various NSO apps completely at random. I'm your host, Derrick Bittner, and in this episode I'm joined by the Golden Bolt, YouTube essayist who deep dives into development history and a member of the Crubcast podcast. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing good. I am ready to talk about some racing that we are all certainly going to be bad at.
Oh, absolutely. And, of course, MykonosFan, editor, and another member of the Crubcast, which you should definitely check out. How you doing, Chris?
I'm good. Your theme this week. You have two members of the same podcast. There's synergy. I like it.
Yeah.
We're gonna hit you on both sides and just ram you into the center of one of the platforms. I feel like that this game has a couple stages where there are splits and forks in the road.
I would not doubt it. I would not doubt it. But as you're both likely aware, there are now over 200 games across the NSO, and while some are widely known like Super Mario Bros. And Zelda, there are some odd picks that could be considered hidden gems. We honestly don't know. So what we'll be doing is entering all those games into a randomizer, picking one, and then giving our initial thoughts. And this week, the Wheel of Games has chosen, as Kevin has indicated, F-Zero X for the Nintendo 64. What is your history with this game? Chris, let's start with you.
Oh, I have none. I hear about it, right? You hear about the 60 frames per second, and that's pretty cool for an N64 game, but I don't think I even knew this game existed until maybe 4 or 5 years ago. There's not a lot of F-Zero fans out there talking about it, I guess, in the first place, right? But I just never hear about anything but the original and GX, and then I think one of the GBA games are supposed to be bad, and that's all I know about F-Zero.
You never watched 2014 YouTube with all the videos about the disk drive version of this game where you could have a track editor and everything, and everyone totally had that because everyone had an N64 DD? How dare you?
No, I didn't. Sorry, 2014.
One of the, 5 best games on 64 DD?
Yeah, if that.
I think.
That and another Mario Paint, and I think that's it.
I am pretty sure. What about you, Kevin? What's your history with F-Zero X?
So I have it on my N64 shelf over there, actually. Mm-hmm. I have played it enough, more than most players have, in that I've at least finished one race. So I'm feeling pretty good.
Okay.
I remember nothing about it, though. It's been years and years since I played it.
Yeah. So I have very limited history with F-Zero X. I definitely played more F-Zero GX because that's when everybody was talking about it, and I actually knew who the hell Captain Falcon was to a better degree. So it's just like, yeah, well, we'll check out this F-Zero GX. Oh God, it's so freaking hard. Why is this game so hard? And then it reminds me, it's like, oh yeah, I played Wipeout on my Sega Saturn. That game was really hard too. I am not good at these futuristic racers at all.
The future is hard.
Yeah, future is very hard.
Yeah.
And then I happened to be at a friend's house, and he suggested playing F-Zero X. I'm like, all right, I'll try it out. Yep, I was pretty terrible. And I know there's a lot of punishment here where there's eventually courses where there's no sides. You're just going to fly off and die, and good luck. It's a brutal game. It really wants you to master its controls. And I have since gone back and played F-Zero GX, almost completed the story mode. That's rough as hell right there. And beaten all the regular tournaments on that one. But I don't know how much better F-Zero GX is to X. Like you say, I don't hear a lot of people talk about X when GX is such a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I at least have some curiosity about GX. I picked it up from GameStop used back in the day when you could feasibly do that, right? Mm-hmm. Without, spending an arm and a leg and them actually having it. And I know a bit of that team went on to work on the Yakuza games, so I have that connection to that, but X is just I don't know anything about it. I don't know. I hope it's good. Maybe it's really easy and everyone just talks it up and you guys remember it wrong. That'd be cool.
Wouldn't that be nice? Now, the advantage here, of course, with us playing off NSO is that, we do have the rewind function. So if we need to, we can back it up and let's try that again. Trust me, I've done it plenty of times with previous games on this game club. But I'm curious how this is all going to go. I guess at the very least, it's just us going through all the tournaments because it's a racing game, so I'm not sure how much there is to unlock or do. I know there's no story mode like in GX, so right. I think it's more of a sense of just getting a accustomed to it. But I mean, great timing considering F-Zero 99 is what everybody's talking about right now. And I've still not tried that one out, to be honest.
Neither have I. We totally didn't rig this perfectly for the SEO.
No,
Definitely.
totally not.
I put like half an hour in a 99. Actually, it is really as good as people are saying. From
I need to check it out.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Maybe I'll do that just to compare, just to have a comparison point for what they're all about. Because I think there's 30 racers in F-Zero generally, so there's still quite a bit of people to beat and bash around. Just in 3D rather than a SNES launch title. So yeah, I'm curious about this one. But any other thoughts before we take our week to play some F-Zero X?
I hope the music's good. F-Zero is good music, right?
I think it does. Yeah.
I don't know.
I remember.
I don't know how it'll sound through an N64, but I hope it's good.
Yeah, I hope it's the Banjo-Kazooie sound font. I want all the tracks to just have that.
Okay. Beautiful. I love it. Let's do it. All right. We'll be back soon to talk about give our full thoughts on F-Zero X. And we're back after a week of playing F-Zero X for the Nintendo 64. And I gotta say, I have some thoughts, but let's actually start with you, Chris. What did you think of F-Zero X?
I feel like if this was one of the few games I got as a kid, and I was a kid and had all the time in the world and no obligations, I would have really liked this, because I immediately felt like a skill ceiling kind of thing, in the sense that it was so far up and I was so far down, and in my current state of life I would never get to the skill ceiling. It was fun and I enjoyed it, general thoughts up front, but it very much seems like a game where I wish I had the attention span to focus on it and get good at it and really dedicate time into it, because it is fun. It is very fast paced. There's some split second decisions even in this game where I made the wrong choice and got flipped off the track and died, and
yeah,
it hurt my pride, but I know I wasn't going to get good enough in a week to get much better than I got, I think.
Fair enough. What about you, Kevin?
So disclosure, I have played F-Zero X before on the N64, because I went on an N64 binge when I bought my childhood system from my stepdad back in the day, because he sold it to me for some reason. So I remember enjoying it back then, but I had no idea what I was doing. And coming back to it, I enjoyed it a lot more, but I don't think it's the best racing futuristic game on the system. I think Star Wars Episode 1 Racer still kind of takes the cake for me. Like, that game still has that sense of speed, and it looks prettier, because this game is not a pretty looker because of the whole 60 FPS. But I was better at the game than I expected, which threw me off. What about you, Derrick?
I only played it in bits and pieces before this point, and each time I did absolutely horrible. So the nice thing about this time around is able to take my time, ease myself into it. I have the experience of playing F-Zero GX now that I could try to get a better handle on it. But I am terrible at this game, and I tried and I tried and I tried and I tried, and I could not beat anything on standard. I asked for advice over my Blue Sky account, because I sort of like, it's lower, few enough people watch. I was like, okay, I'm not going to spoil anything by talking about it over there. That I'm like, what tips can I get? And people are like, here's my setups for these characters. This always works for me, and I still couldn't make it happen. Best I got playing through the Jack Cup on standard was second place. And I beat everything on novice with little difficulty. It gave me some challenges here and there, but I was able to get through it. And I got better as I was playing through standard, but there was certain tracks that just killed my momentum of trying to make it actually to the end and get that first place so you can lock more stuff. Because my goal was to unlock Rainbow Road as part of the Joker Cup without having to use the cheats. I failed at that. And so I'm split on this because on the one hand, I suck and I can't really say I want to go back and play this a ton, but I also appreciate what it brings to the table. And that's where I'm very split on it. It's like, I understand its strengths. I just think it's not a game for me.
Yeah, that's kind of F-Zero in a nutshell, I think, for me as well. Just all of the series, really. Yeah. Like, I've played, the SNES game, obviously. I've played the GBA, whichever one we got. There were 2 GBA ones, right?
Yeah, Maximum Velocity and GP Legend. I somehow
I played one of them at some point. And, I've played GX, obviously, because that's the game that everyone had on their GameCube that no one could beat one track. And I really appreciated this time around the, like, sitting and enjoying not the difficulty curve, but the progression curve, where, there are 3 cups when you start. And if you beat them all on novice, you get the second tier of racers. If you beat them, or if you get 3 X's rather. Mm-hmm. So every time you beat a cup with a certain difficulty, you get an X. So if you either beat one with all 3 difficulties, or if, however combination, the more X's that you get on your save slot, the more cars rather you get, and the more utility a lot of them have, because a lot of the early cards suck. Like, it's pretty much just Captain Falcon, and that's kind of it.
Yeah,
that's interesting, because I let myself look into it a little bit, and apparently Samurai Goro, 4th over on the starting line, is apparently the best card in the game.
Interesting. Wow. I would believe that. I wouldn't be surprised at all if there's like one that you wouldn't expect that I just completely missed. I was just
I should have looked that up.
Yeah.
I stuck with Captain Falcon and tried out like Mr. EAD and the old guy on the second road, because I'm like, well, their stats seem like they might appeal more to my style. No, I sucked. Nothing helped me. I tried.
Yeah, I fell in for Wild Goose for a while because it's very durable, and the handling just clicked with me. So he was pretty good, but the few races I did do a Samurai Goro compared to I did the cheat code just to try some of the last racers just to see if they were like way better. Mm-hmm. And Samurai Goro did seem like the one to use, at least to me. So
I when I also used the cheat code, I was maining Black Bull for a while, or Black Falcon, but I think he's Black Bull in this game.
I know there's Blood Falcon, like but there's Black Bull that also is like the actual, like, Blood Falcon is the evil clone of Captain Falcon, but Blood Bull,
of course, naturally.
I know this from GX, from playing GX's story mode. Yeah. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Like Smash trophies. Yeah.
It's interesting because like the difficulty curve of the tracks themselves, like within a cup, there are 6 tracks per cup usually, or at least I think invariably rather, and it didn't really feel like it was a smooth difficulty curve. Like track 3 on the Queen Cup, I remember being a pain. For some reason, I think it was track 2 of the Jack Cup I always struggled on, even though it's a really easy track. So that might have just been me being bad. But it's one of those where any of the tracks that have one specific jump where, because of course it's F-Zero, if you fall off, you just die and start over. Like, it's not, you don't Mario Kart this, you're done.
5 lives is all you get, so good luck.
Yeah. So I know that eventually I got the hang of a lot of those, especially like the later track that's like 7 jumps in a row. That one was fine. Or the big full pipe track early in the game as well, where you're going down a full pipe, and it's like, you better be careful when you get off, because if you're going too fast, you will just careen into the abyss.
Yep.
Found that out the hard way. Yeah.
Playing that with Joy-Con drift was very fun.
Oh,
it made me a better player. Clearly,
I had to figure out. Another thing I asked advice for over on Blue Sky was, all right, what the hell do I do in the air? Because if I let myself just sail into this skyline, everybody would pass me underneath. If I let myself like dive bomb so I can get to the ground as quick as possible, everybody passed me overhead. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Turns out there's a little bit of Excite Bike in this thing where you got to level yourself out before you land so you can keep up the momentum.
Yeah.
There's so many little things here that can kill your speed.
Yeah, that was something I learned from. I think it was either a combination of 2 F-Zero clones or just one of them. I'm not sure. But there's an F-Zero clone that's not out yet, that the demo was on Steam for a while, called Aero GPX or Aero GP.
Okay.
It reminded me, or rather, playing F-Zero X after that game again, playing those you're on a tube, but you're on the exterior of a tube. That's a lot of what that game does. That game is very, very F-Zero, but with maybe more fluid mechanics. So the flying stuff, I was already like, oh, that's where that's from. Like I just had forgotten that existed in F-Zero X or any of the F-Zeros I'd played before. That game. I don't think it's out yet, but I recommend that one if you ever want a more modern F-Zero experience. It's a pretty cute game.
Cool. All I have left in me is just the pain. Like I have all the courses of the Jack Cup seared into my mind now, where I can do the first 3 courses pretty well. And I could like get up there, at least get first, second, like be in the running. But as soon as I got to Big Blue and God, whatever the one was after that, I forget what it was. I don't know what to do on Big Blue to get any kind of speed because I'm on that circular, the pipeline thing.
Circular pipe. Yeah.
And you're obviously supposed to hit the boost pads, but I can't hit the boost pads because it's just so freaking finicky.
You can't really tell which ones you're supposed to be like. You don't know which angle you're supposed to line up on for each boost pad.
There's no indication, and I try to follow the guys ahead of me, and it doesn't seem to do anything. I could barely get 10th on that course, and it just would torpedo from that point on. It was just like I think that's the issue here where I got frustrated and just like, is this even for me? Because there's never any indication of what I'm doing wrong. And at least with GX, I could kind of fake it until I made it with when I played that game, because I wasn't great at it, but I was at least able to beat the standard cup for most of those cups. I was able to get beyond some spaces. And I remember everybody talk about how hard GX is. I think X is harder. By far. Story mode is definitely a pain in the ass in GX.
I feel like that's a common thought that I've heard before. Like, I feel like everyone says X is the hardcore one.
I believe
because GX is the deceptively hardcore one because it has a story mode that you would think would mean it'd be a little bit more forgiving because they're trying to market to a new audience. But no, it's F-Zero. They never market to a new audience. They have the same 10 players and that's it. Well, now I guess 99 players, but hey.
Not one more than that.
Yeah. Did you guys? Oh no, you go first, Chris.
I was just gonna say, I guess that's kind of where I was getting at with like if I had unlimited time or something or attention span to put toward the game, I guess just to get over those weird hurdles where I don't really know what I'm doing wrong, but through trial and error I could get there, right? Like, if I had the hyperbolic time chamber, I think I'd eventually get it. But I'm with you. Like that was thrilling. That track, especially on Big Blue, like going on to that full 360 pipe was like really cool. But I think I lucked out in first on Novice, but I didn't really feel like I earned it.
Yeah. There was a point early on where I had like a photo finish, essentially. Like I was maybe a frame ahead of the person in second when I zoomed past them. And that was one of those where like the game clicked for me in that moment of like, okay, now I'm getting it. Like this rubber banding is actually pretty forgiving, all things considered. And not really noticeable when you're ahead. Like if you're ahead, it doesn't really rubber band towards you, at least on the first 2 difficulties.
No, I didn't notice that. Like it didn't feel like, all right, I'm in first place. All of a sudden I'm getting passed. Like it'll happen a little bit, but nothing terrible. I will commend the game for that. But it really felt like they could get far ahead of you. It's like, oh God, they're 6 seconds ahead of me. How do I catch up?
Yeah. And then every now and then they pulled the brakes a little and then they gave you a chance on the earlier difficulties. And that's where it's like, okay, this game has something to it. I was going to ask earlier, did you guys engage with the combat much at all?
A little bit here and there, but I found myself dying more often than not if I tried to kill people. Like, sometimes I would get desperate. Like, okay, the only way I can catch up is if my rival, the guy in first place, dies and can't finish, so I can actually get a much better score than them. And every time I tried that, here's a little hill, whoop, off I go, dead.
Yeah.
So
what sucked for me was a couple times my rival died. Like I saw him die and then he just respawned and I'm like, what? How do you get to play by different rules?
Oh, that's
Piss
not
off.
fair at all.
I didn't engage with it too much, but I know that if you get 5 kills, every time you get 5 kills, you get another life. And that's supposed to be part of like the intrigue of the risk reward of that, I guess.
I had no idea.
But I wasn't super successful with it because outside of the starting areas of levels where like, you're all lumped together, or those couple tracks here or there where they really funnel you in side by side with like 2 people or 2 lanes and there's like 400 cars. There's no other way that I felt comfortable ramming into other people, especially with the whole risk reward of boost versus energy in later laps. Which
Yeah.
I also really enjoy that every time in every F-Zero game.
That's the thing. I can praise that mechanic. It is that you really have to think about it and decide which is the best way to go. It's just something about the mechanics themselves, about having to figure out how to best catch up in certain scenarios.
And the drifting's wonky. I don't really like the drifting much.
Yeah. It's an odd thing. Like I tried a death race. I sucked at death race. I didn't try time trials, but it was just like, I don't know. Like I said, I can appreciate this game. The music is fantastic. I know you like crapped on not crapped on, but say that there's better looking games for speed focused racers on N64. I still think if you look at when this came out, especially with Mario Kart 64 coming out earlier, it is a major step up over Mario Kart 64. Maybe not be as vibrant, but the fact you have 30 full 3D models going at 60 FPS is incredibly impressive and a heck of a step up from the original. The backgrounds maybe aren't too detailed, but the tracks themselves are pretty cool.
And there was an interview at one point that I was reading about when I was digging more into the game, where they were talking about exactly that, the backgrounds being essentially just a black screen, but they cover it up as much as they can by making the tracks so close to you, unless you zoom the camera out or anything. Mm-hmm. So they mask it very well. But if you look, if you look behind the curtain, then you're like, oh, I see why this is 60 FPS. Okay, all the cars are just Star Fox on Super Nintendo shapes, and like it's just polygons, and that's it. And that's fine for what this game is trying to be. But even on N64, it's interesting comparing that to, like, again, a Star Wars racer, which that game does not look great, but the detail that game does have for a game on that system is very impressive with how similar the speeds are of both games.
Was that an expansion pack game or not?
I think it had expansion pack capability, but it was just a raw N64 game with the Dreamcast version. That's even better looking, actually.
Yeah. Huh.
But that's a similar game. Not to talk too much about that one, but it's a similar one where everyone I know as a kid just kind of played the first cup and then never knew what they were doing and moved on. If you sink your teeth into both F-Zero and Star Wars Racer, you get a lot more out of them. You really kind of start to see, like, oh, there's like depth here. Like there's a lot of tracks that you just never thought you'd get to, you never thought you'd play, etc.
Yeah. I guess what else stood out for you guys for this game? Because it's a racer, because there's not a whole lot to say outside the mechanics and the courses and whatnot. But what kind of stood out for you, Chris?
I would say, I guess, the presentation in the sense of A, the music, B, I guess the world, because I went and tried to read about some of the characters. I know it's not F-Zero X exclusive, right? But it combined with the art style of the characters when they're drawn in portraits and stuff, I was just really liking how kind of pulpy, cheesy it felt. Kind of old comic booky kind of stuff. It kind of wound up getting more interested in that than the game, perhaps, at a point, right? But I think that would be my main takeaway from the game, is just kind of that, or just those weird split-second moments where things were really exciting, which is maybe a nice way of saying I won't remember much of the rest of it. But that and like trying to procedurally generated stuff, which I forget if we touched on right before we went live or not, but I did put in the cheat code to try that out, and it is very cool.
It's so neat.
Yeah, have sections of the track built on random, and
oh wow,
yeah, like most of them are simple, but when you get some of like the more advanced tracks that just kind of randomly pop up, it's really impressive.
Yeah, like I would still be impressed by that today, let alone back then. So
yeah, since you guys both inputted the code, how did you enjoy the Joker Cup?
Enjoy?
Yeah, exactly. What was that like? I don't know. I know they smartly put Rainbow Road as the first track you play on in that cassette, which I think that's probably a good idea.
You ever play Rainbow Road on Mario 64, but on 200cc, and if you die forever? It's that.
Oh no! But there's constant walls on Mario Kart 64.
Not on this one.
Oh no!
Not on this one.
They removed the walls.
You get 3 lives. I think I finished 28 out of 30, which I felt pretty good about, all things considered. From jumping,
I wasn't last.
I wasn't last,
God.
right? But and one thing I remember, I think last week when we talked about it, we were like, "Oh, we'll let the N64 rewind. If if we mess up, we can just rewind a little bit. No, there's no N64 rewind.
I've barely
out.
used the N64
you can make save states, and I will say I used it a little bit to just make a save state because I'm down to my last life, and I'm like, well, I don't want to restart this entire thing again, so let me try this, and I'll try to get a better place. That's when I used it, but for the most part, I tried not to use that too much because it's. I don't think me replaying the same race over and over again is just going to do anything for me. I'm just going to try to get it going just well as an entire cup, and it just never clicked. And that's where I'm sort of left at. It's like, as you said, Chris, I like the comic style. I like the presentation. Yeah. The fact that there's a ton of unlockables here is pretty cool. Unlocking them on the other hand, that's an ordeal. Like, you are definitely going to be working to get that stuff, and it might be good, it might not be, but you will be taking a kicking. And I will say, just to sort of test myself to see if it's just me not really being in F-Zero, I did finally play F-Zero 99, and I once again can confirm that it's fine. I know people are like praising this game to high heaven, but I'm like, my best finish was I think like 45. And the one time I was in like 12th, I all of a sudden everybody started to be really mean to me and it blew me up. So it's like, okay, I can see the addictive nature of this, but God, I just don't know if F-Zero is for me.
Yeah, if you like F-Zero, then you love F-Zero, but it's a really rough one to get into a lot of the time.
Right. I enjoy 99 a lot more, just for the sake that it's more constantly adrenaline pumping, and the novelty really helps it a lot for me, I think. Like basically a Super Nintendo remake, but plop 99 people in one track and you're just bumping around and everything's going crazy all the time. Like, it does a lot more for me in that sense, but I think I also feel less pressure to be good in that, weirdly, which maybe helps make me like it more. I think if I took 99 more seriously, I'd probably like it less, weirdly enough. When I go into that, I'm like...
element. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Chris.
Yeah.
Just playing with 98 other people who are also bad at the game, and like maybe 97 and one's good. That's a lot more interesting inherently than playing against 29 AI that are, some of them are going to be better than you no matter what because they just race a perfect track.
Yeah. And to 99's credit, it does have a tutorial that's like, hey, here's maybe how you should handle these turns, or here's what this does.
And that was very appreciated. It's like, this is needed for this game.
Yeah.
It really is.
What that kind of series really needs. That a lot of games from that late 90s, early 2000s era, obviously early 90s for the first F-Zero, but a lot of similar racing games would try and go for like the hardcore figure it out rather than giving you like the turning guidelines or anything like that. And I think that having a little bit of a tutorial in any hypothetical future F-Zero game would go a very, very long way in the way that 99 seems to do it. I haven't played 99, I'll admit, but from what it sounds like, hey, what if we made these games accessible? That'd be pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's little things to unlock. You can customize your car. There's Grand Prix you can do, mini Prix that you can do just to unlock more stuff and have these bonuses for people who care about that sort of thing. There's a lot of stuff here to sink your teeth into, which is very cool. It does make it seem much more accessible, but just on a gameplay sense, I don't know. I like racers, especially arcadey racers, but I find I tend to do a little bit better. And it kind of reminds me when I tried the Sonic Riders demo back in the day.
Oh, Sonic Riders, you say? You tell me more.
I hated it. I didn't understand anything. I'm like, I'm not picking this up. This sucks. And it's just back to that old. I'm so sorry about the cough.
You're right.
This is why I have water nearby. Oh God.
Riders is a really tricky game.
Yeah, like that has the whole thing where they don't even like try and teach you anything early on. Like there's a whole, isn't there a whole like set of mechanics in Riders that unless you read the manual or like you really, really sink your teeth in, you'll just never know exists?
I'm pretty sure because it was just one of those things where I know how to race. Why isn't it working in this game? And that's sort of how I feel about F-Zero as well. It's like, I know what I'm doing. I know what's there, but there's some element that's just not clicking with me. And I know people love Riders to Death. I think they can consider that the best one compared to the others. But it's just like there's some sort of mechanic here that's just not for me.
Riders to me proves that rule I've been talking about, because I did play it as a kid and I did have unlimited time to get really good at that. So due to that, I really like it. But if you handed me Sonic Riders right now, sight unseen, I'd probably be quite upset. But, yeah. Not that it's as hard as F-Zero mind, but it's pretty tricky just jumping into it.
Yeah. But
I'd say X mostly just made me want to give GX another try, I think.
I prefer GX. I will say that right now, because I think it has a much kinder curve. I think the it just controls a little bit better. It's a little easier to get a hold of. I don't know. There's a lot of creative tracks. Like I feel like I could get more mileage out of it than I could. And I streamed the game when I played it originally, so it's me just learning it as I'm going along and finding ways to get better and actually seeing things kind of click, and just so little of that transferred over to X. I'm like, oh no.
It's good news. 2025, when the GameCube Online comes to the Switch 2, you might have a chance at F-Zero 3 years from then. You never know.
Goody. Oh gosh, but
I keep hearing murmurs about a GX remaster, and I'm always just like, would that make anyone happy?
I think it would make some people happy. I think it just give that other chance, especially because now you have these new fans with F-Zero 99, and they try to transfer that over to GX, especially if you have easier modes or tutorials to teach you how to do that stuff. I think there's a way to make that really work. So
even the Switch audience tax, I'll call it, by default would make that the most successful F-Zero game of all time. The question is then, if they, in a hypothetical remaster, if they do change or improve anything, or if they're going to make it a game that a ton of people buy and then immediately realize, oh, we don't want more of this, because man, this is hard. That's kind of the fear if you do it versus a new game.
Yeah, that's the idea. Oh gosh, but Well, do we have anything else that we want to say about F-Zero X? It's a racing game, so there's only so much you can really say. Great soundtrack, by the way, but that's sort of known at this point. If you played Smash Bros., you've heard a lot of these tracks, and they're good. They're really good. Yeah,
I would agree with that. I don't have anything else to say, I guess. The question I would posit that you were maybe going to posit is, will either of you come back to this in your own spare time after this? Because I'm not sure I will.
No, I have no plans.
If I still played my Switch a lot, then potentially. But I really don't engage with the Switch Online stuff that much, and I'm on my 4th Joy-Con drift set that I'm just like, I'm ready for the next one. I'm good for now. I hate saying it, but I think Tears of the Kingdom was kind of my last hurrah with the Switch for a while, until the Switch 2. So on the Switch 2, but not until then.
Gotcha.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, with that, I believe we've said all we've wanted to say about F-Zero X, but let's give our final verdict. Would you recommend it as an N-Yeso, or tell people to stay away with an N-Oh-No? Kevin, let's start with you.
Well, Chris, you got the shirt for this. That's the sad part. If you're going to say no, you got the right shirt.
No, I might need to change to my Oh Yeso shirt, maybe.
I would give it like a it can't hurt. It's interesting to see. It's interesting to learn. But if you don't get past the first cup on Novice, that's probably as far as you're going. So give the first 6 tracks 1 or 2 plays, because it's free if you have the service. So
right,
all of them by default are kind of a yes to me from that perspective alone.
Well,
you never know what
favorite
you'll find.
Trust me, there is some games on here. It's like, don't waste your time. That's all.
I had a whole series on the PlayStation version of this a couple of years ago. Trust me, even an hour was too much for a lot of those games. So I get you.
Oof. Kevin, Chris, how about you?
I'm an NESO, because if you're looking strictly at the service, there are so few games like this, and even if you expand out from the service, there are still so few games like this that it's at least worth trying and seeing if it clicks with you and seeing if it's something you want to put time into, because it is neat, right? It is still novel even after all these years, I think. especially if you're a big Smash fan and you still haven't really had access to F-Zero before, this is probably what you should try, right?
Yeah.
Out of anything. So
Easiest thing to try, that or 99 at this point. Probably 99, honestly, is
Yeah.
thanks to
probably
that.
99. Yeah, but you know, I don't want to sound
At least
so
I'm not
mean, 'cause,
alone.
like, I did like it. I had fun, right? I'm just like, if someone's like, should I play this over something else? That's where I would struggle and have a lot more qualifiers,
Yeah.
I think. Because like, it is good, right? I think it is fun, but you really got to dedicate time into it to get more than like an hour out of kind of sampling it, you know?
Yeah.
That's kind of
So-
why I say play the first cup twice and see if you feel like you've learned something, or if you get one of those photo finish moments, then it's sort of okay, you'll get more out of this. But if not, I don't think we're being negative on it or anything. I think it's just that it's very you got to have the taste for it.
Sorry, I have zero fans.
Yeah.
I think the
I mean,
thing
we
I'm
all have
most-
bad taste, clearly,
Yeah,
so it's fine.
Obviously.
Yeah.
I gotta repeat for both of you where it's a tentative and yes-o, because I can recognize its positives. It's just the more I play of this series, the more I think it's just not quite for me. It's just one of those things where you play certain games, you want to enjoy certain games because everybody says how wonderful they are, but you just can't do it. You just can't click with that thing, and that's just what happened with F-Zero X. It's just not my favorite thing that I've played as part of this game club so far, even though I think it's probably one of the higher quality games that have come up. I absolutely believe that, but I don't think it's my favorite. It's one of my favorites just because there's only so much I can beat my head against the wall and be like, okay, let's do this. I mean, it's just
Someone make a Dark Souls joke quick.
Dark
I guess so.
Souls.
There we go. Perfect. So yeah, that's where I end up, where I get it. It's just not for me. That's why we have to go for that. But what about all of you? I know in our live audience chat, there's a ton of F-Zero X fans there. So
They have showed up.
they have definitely voiced their support of this game. But what about all of you that in the chat? I go to the commenters, have you played F-Zero X before, or was this your first time? But before we go, where can everyone find you at? Chris, plug yourself away.
I'm at MykonosFan. I'd love to say find me on Twitter, but who knows how much longer anyone will be on that site. So I guess look me up on YouTube, twitch.tv, and find me over at what Kevin will also be plugging on Crub, where we have our podcast, the Crubcast, where we sometimes talk like this and sometimes come up with random stupid stuff, like making a cryptid.
Yeah, we made our own cryptid. We invented a whole mythos for him. It was a lot of fun. You can find me at the Golden Bolt on every platform that exists and some that don't. And the Crubcast, if you go to crub.org, there's an audio form version. If you go to @CrubOfficial on pretty much every platform, you'll find that. It's myself, Chris, that Trav guy, and a bunch of other cool people that have featured here on the Good Vibes crew at different times. And we do a bunch of fun, dumb chaos in a similar way, actually. So if you want more of these guys, but less funny.
Wait, less funny? Oh, all right. I somehow doubt that, but okay.
Hey man, we have our qualities. Let us
More
have less
depraved,
funny.
I guess. Yeah.
that I understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, either way, thank you both for joining me. And if all you lovely viewers enjoyed this episode, let us know in the comments, and please consider supporting us at patreon.com/gvgaming, which includes our live audience tier that will allow you to watch Game Club live as it's being recorded. But even just subscribing and hitting that bell helps us a ton. But now it's time for the Wheel of Games to choose next week's title, as I'm joined by my special guests, Lady Pelvic and Ash Paulson. Are you both ready to see what game we're playing?
I am so excited and nervous, but mostly excited.
Heck yeah, let's go.
All right, let's do this. Let's bring up the Wheel of Games and spin that wheel. What will we get? What system will it be on? Will it be something we actually like? And it is, oh baby, Donkey Kong Country for the Super Nintendo.
Wow, nice.
Wow. There we go. Donkey
love
Kong Country for the Super Nintendo. There you have it. We'll see you next time as we cover big old DK. Thanks for watching, and until next time, bye.